You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks one-on-one with Keith Engle. In just a minute, I'll bring in Byron Williams, who many of our viewers are familiar with. Has spent a lot of hours on these podcasts on the Mac and Jack show and a show he did with Jim Jeffcoat, as you know, for a while. Very busy, I know, with the NFL Players Association now, which we'll get to. We'll also talk to Byron about his career a bit as well. He didn't have an unproductive NFL career, played a lot of time in the CFL. A big year with the WF. I'm going to say that wrong, right? Right in front of me. WLAF. I always say that one wrong. It's not the World Football League from the 70s, guys. Byron hasn't been along that long. But we'll get into him with that stuff and some Players Association stuff, as I promised you guys. We've had some comments by some former NFL players, and Byron is excited to get into chat about that. I want to thank everybody watching on our TGI Sports Talk platforms today, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, also the Roku, the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. I want to give a special shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out of Pittsburgh there, specifically the Sports Corner with Smoking Jim Frazier from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. I've been on that show and had some fun with those guys. And the groups that allow me to share this and have driven the viewership so high on these shows. I love it. Whether it's interview shows or commentary shows that we have so much fun with. John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities, great group. LTS, Let's Talk Sports, where I don't broadcast live anymore, but we still share all our content. Tanner D does a great job over there, and there's some great content over there, one of which is the Bottom Line Sports team with Flo and the gang. Some really good podcasts. And, of course, who else? Golf Buds, sports of all sorts. Ken Krause in the group. We got lots of them, guys. We'll start mentioning all of you. And anybody comes in and participates, I always give them a chance to plug their show. DDH, thumbs up. I hope you're watching down on us today. And lastly, all these shows and everything on National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by betus.com. You can go to nessp.info and click the link there, and you'll get some special features to help you get some free money to place a few bets with. Be smart, bet with your head, not over it, guys. We may talk to Byron a little bit about some of the sports and gambling situations today. And we'll bring real quick before I bring Byron in. Why do I keep wanting to say Byron? Brian. More coffee, Keith. Michael Gott from over in the UK is with us this morning. Good morning, Michael. Always good to have our UK friends with us. Danny Fuller, our most dedicated viewer, up at 5:30 this morning watching the Mac and Jack show. John Gonzalez, great finish last night. Yeah, for sure. There's John Gonzalez with us. We just mentioned John with the Sports Authority. Let me bring in my guest with no further ado, Byron Williams, former, Packer, Eagle, Giant, Colt, played with a ton of teams in the CFL. I'm going to say it wrong. Why do I keep saying I kept saying the World Football League, and I know you didn't play in the 70s, so you couldn't play there. Yeah. The WLAF, which we had a great year there. I want to talk to you about all of that and your work with the Players Association. Byron, thanks for coming in today.
Hey, thank you for having me, Keith.
Love having you. Miss chatting with you on Friday morning. Sometimes we would just see each other in passing, but sometimes we get to spend some time together. I know you've been busy. Yeah. Missed those little chats, but I'm glad you could come in with us today.
Thanks for having me. I really needed a break.
You really need a break?
From all the chaos. I just got back from Washington, D.C. We had the president's meeting up there for 3 days, and it was good to go to D.C. and start raining Monday, Tuesday while I was there. But it was good to just to visit, get away from the heat of Texas. So it was really good.
I got to say, I don't think anybody's ever said to me, it's great to come on the show and get away from the chaos, but I appreciate the thought. Well, thank you. Byron, as I said, we're going to get into what you're doing now, the great work you're doing with the Players Association and how you got involved there. But I kind of want to go back first and talk a little bit about your career. You grew up you grew up in Texas, obviously a football hotbed.
Yes.
And you went to, where'd you,
University of Texas at Arlington, right where I live in Arlington, right where the Cowboys play AT&T Stadium. I'm in Arlington.
give us an idea. You growing up in Texas, obviously high school football, I think at times it's bigger than college football in Texas. What was it like? What was the atmosphere like around your football team? And Friday nights, I'm assuming you played.
Yeah. It's I went to East Texas. It's a border town. It's half of the city's on the Arkansas side, half is on the Texas side, Texas County. I went to the smallest school called Liberty Aloe. Me and Willie Till was the first two guys to get into our high school Hall of Fame. They started in 2011.
Oh, cool.
But it's a good football city. You know, you have the Texas High and the Arkansas High schools that have the rival. They steal each other's mascot. One's a tiger and the other's Razorbacks. And it's just a good city to grow up in. And football is like, you know, they shut the whole city down on Friday nights. And so it's a lot of guys. We done had about 12 guys now since me and Willie went to the NFL. LaMichael James is one of the players that went to my high school.
Cool.
So we have about 12 guys who actually have played in the NFL. We got a phenomenal kid right now that's a junior that everybody been recruiting since he was in 8th grade. So we got a lot of football history in that city.
What's his name? I got to keep an eye out for him.
His last name is I forgot it right now. I'm gonna think about it and then I'll tell you because
we just had this conversation before the show.
but this kid.
No, not that you forgot that how hard it is to pull the things up sometimes.
I know it. He's a phenomenal. And he got one of those special names, so I got to look it up. So, but no, it's really a good place to grow up, I think. And you know, I married my high school sweetheart there, and she's from the Arkansas side of town. So,
that's cool.
My brother was an All-American quarterback that went to OU. His name was Philip Dillard. He played with J.C. Watts and those guys back in the day.
Some good players. What was it difficult? Bringing a girl from Arkansas into the family, or?
No. My mother accepted her. If my mother liked her, that means I could date her. So
that's good. That's all really matters. Right? That's awesome.
I had to put her through the pass test. You know, she got to go through the test. You know.
You go to UT Arlington. Did you have other opportunities to go elsewhere? I mean, UT Arlington obviously was closer to home, I'm assuming, but.
Yeah, it was the closest to my hometown, but the deal was everybody wanted me as a defensive back, and I wanted to play receiver, and UT Arlington was running the wishbone offense, so I said I want to play receiver, and the coach loved me, and so Tulane coach wanted me, Rice, I could have went to Rice, SMU, Louisiana Tech, Arkansas State was the first school to recruit me, but everybody wanted me as a defensive back, and I wanted to play receiver. So that's what made me decide to come to UT Arlington. And you know, when you look back, you just still don't have no regrets. But I'm just happy that I was able to get a free education, first of all. And, you know, my grades were really good. I tell everybody about my high school coach. When I first got to high school, my high school coach gave me, he made a deal with me. He said, you be on the AB honor roll, I'm going to give you $20. So every 6 weeks I would run to the gym and he'd give me $20. And that's why I was really good in the classroom. And really, I didn't know what he was doing. And he just said, I see something special in you. Not only could you was a good athlete, but you're a very smart young man. Because his wife was my 5th grade teacher. She told me that I was something special. So, you know, when people pour into you, you got to really receive that. And I think that's why I try to tell kids, somebody can see something in you, and you still can think, I don't have the talent, I'm not gifted. But I'm telling you, when somebody else can see that in you, you just got to believe it, and you can build your life around that. And so that's kind of what I was doing, and that's what happened. I think it was a good timing of everything that happened.
Yeah, actually, I'll skip forward just a little bit because I know you dealt with a lot of kids with camps and whatnot, and you talked about the situation you were just referring to, and it feels like there's a lot of kids who are putting everything into sports, and even their parents, right?
Yeah.
I think I fault the parents as much as the kids because they're taking their cues from their parents. They put all their eggs in one basket, and then when either they aren't good enough or they get injured, there's no plan B. And I'm assuming you counsel kids on that now as well.
Absolutely, and it's really sad because a lot of people don't think about the injuries and the timing of everything, and so it's really good that you got to look at everything, and I've seen a lot of great athletes that had so much talent, and for example, everybody was coming to recruit Frank Roberts. Frank Roberts was our All-State center and nose guard, and then that's how they started noticing me. I want to know how to list on people's names when I was being recruited, but this can be somebody else at the school, and then it could be a tier 2 school that you can go to and get a scholarship. But people need to understand that injuries is a big factor. You get hurt, it could end a career and just like that, and that's what have happened to a lot of athletes as well.
Got to have a plan B for sure.
Yeah.
You go to UT Arlington, as you said, they're a wishbone offense, so you went as a wide receiver, but you're not going to get a ton of opportunities as a wide receiver in the wishbone. So you didn't have a huge stats at UT Arlington. Right. What's the biggest thing? You talked about your high school experience a little bit. What's the biggest thing you took out of UT Arlington and being there and going to school there? And were there thoughts that you might be have a chance to move on to the next level? You do get drafted, but did you think that was going to happen?
Well, I started. The scouts started stopping at the school my sophomore year, and then they put me on the prospect list. And just think the good thing about UT Arlington, we were between SMU and TCU, which have a flood of good athletes. Right. And Eric Dixon and over there at TCU and some great guys at SMU and some great guys at TCU. So we had a lot of scouts stopping by. So the scouts, when they come, they'll test us. And man, I blew them out the water when I ran the 40. So I would run a 4.3, 4.28, and they said, "Wow!" And that was a good size, and I could bench press 360. And so the good thing about going to UT, I think I was a hard worker, and I was always competing, and I always wanted to be the best. And I think they saw that, and then got a chance to go to the combine, and they had it up in Seattle, and got a chance to fly on the plane with Tom Landry and to see all the great coaches up there, and just had a great workout. But my 10th game of the season, my senior year, I broke my ankle, and so I was coming off an ankle injury, going into the combine. But I was still able to do well at the combine, and so the funniest story is on the way back. Tom Landry said, "You did a good job. I'm proud of you." And so I was getting my spirit up, getting my confidence up, and he said, "Anything I can do for you, let me know." I said, "Coach, I just need a football." So he told Gil Brandt, say, "Monday morning, I want you to have Byron a football over there at UTA." So, just a spectacular story. I tell that story every now and then, but just the timing of everything was perfect for me.
What was the combine? I got a feeling because the draft was, if I remember back there, the draft was
1 day in April.
4 rounds, right? So
12 rounds.
The combine was probably more important then than it is today. Do you think?
Oh yeah, no doubt, because I was able to get the exposure. Just think about this: Dan Marino, all the great quarterbacks was in that class. John Elway. So Todd Blackledge, all those guys was in that class, and I was able to catch from some true quarterbacks. I didn't have a quarterback that really which is just average quarterbacks, but I was able to see real talent, and running routes, Willie Gault, and running against those guys. It would really put everything in perspective for me, and it gave me the confidence that I was really close to where I need to be.
Were you running in the same heat, if you want to call it that, with Willie Gault? Did you beat Willie Gault in the 40?
No, you run your 40 separately, but I forgot exactly our times, but I ran a spectacular time, because usually when they come and they start timing me, they always say you got to run that again, because it kind of like blow their mind. So I had the 40 down. I had it down, because that's what got me really excited about being a good prospect and going to the next level.
Yeah, it's funny. If you're running close to Willie Gault, world-class sprinter, that's pretty darn good. I mean, gosh.
Well, I ran a 10-1 300 meters, and the track coach asked me. I went and ran the Texas relays for him, so I could just run. I was really good at a short distance, so I was pretty good.
There was no time in my life that I could do a 4.2 40 in my car, much less running it, for crying out loud. So that's awesome. So you're on the radar. You get drafted in the 10th round by the Packers. Doesn't work out there. You kind of move around a little bit till you get to the Giants and settle in and have a couple of productive years. What was that like? I guess as a young man, being told you weren't good enough, basically, by the Packers and I think the Eagles. If I got the chronological order right here.
Yeah, let me show you what happened. I was drafted by Bart Starr. He was the head coach at Green Bay. I was the very last guy that they released, and he called me in and said, "Byron, I'm gonna find you a job," because back then I was drafted by the USFL, the Denver Gold, and he said, "Don't go to the Denver Gold," because they were trying to get guys to come over there and play in the USFL.
Yeah.
What I did was, people started calling me, and so I started going from Green Bay. I went from Green Bay. I worked out for the Houston Oilers, and I worked out for the Philadelphia Eagles. But Bill Parcells said, "Next week we're gonna call you up here." So when I went and worked out for the Eagles, Marion Cameron was the head coach, and so I worked out for him, and they said, "We're gonna sign you." So I was there for 4 weeks, and then they had some defensive backs get hurt. Since I was the last guy to come in, they released me. Then Bill Parcells called me the next day. He said, "You need to just stay in Philadelphia. I think we want to bring you up to New York." And so when that happened, with 8 games left to go, I signed with the Giants. And then I had the last 4 games, 3 of the last 4 games, I had over 100 yards each game. So I blew doors off. I got my first touchdown against Lester Hayes. So that really what propelled my career. So I think it was the timing of it, and it just depended on what the team needs are.
Yeah.
But Bart Starr and Mary Cameron, all those guys, and then Bill Parcells, they back then they didn't really just they told you the truth, and that was the good thing about those coaches back in those days. What my expectations were, and so that's what happened with the Giants, and then going into my 4th year with the Giants, I came in with some hamstring deal, and so I didn't get to play in those preseason games, and they released me, but. The good thing about it, people like Phil McConkey and all those guys still call me today, and they say, I had Sean Liddell at my house a month ago, and he said, "Man, I was the best receiver." Well, I ain't going to say I was the best receiver. I was going to say I was a complete receiver because I had all the blocking duties. I could block real well, and I could, I was real big and fast, and I could, just draw the coverage out for our tight ends and things. So just learning the game and knowing the timing of it is something that you can understand. But when you get released from the teams, you be seriously mad about it because you know your skill sets.
Were you ever serious about considering going to the USFL? I mean, there was a time where it was okay, and then it kind of quickly, when they tried to go to the fall, things fell apart. But any serious consideration?
I was thinking because they were giving some good contracts, but everybody wasn't getting those type of contracts. Only guys were getting those contracts. But Miles Davis and June Jones, I ended up still playing for them in 1990, which when they was at Detroit. They was the coaching staff of the Denver Gold back then, but they run that run and shoot offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just fun just to know that somebody wants you, or you might get a chance, an opportunity to go and work out for that particular team.
You mentioned June Jones. I think I'm going to do an interview. I got a tape one because he's in Hawaii. He can't do 9 o'clock live. He won't do it at 3 a.m. He told me. But
he's my buddy. Yeah, I got his cell number. I always talk to him.
Oh, send him a note today. Tell him not to blow me off because I got to get back with him. He hasn't. He's been very interactive, so I shouldn't say that. But we just got to tape the interview because it's a little early for him in Hawaii.
What I can do is I always text him because he's like 4 or 5 hours behind us or whatever. And he would get back with me for the next 2 or 3 days. So I call it the delayed reaction, but he always answers me.
Well, I'm going to mention your name now when I message him again back today. So I'm going to use that. Anybody you can reference to come on the show, you're certainly would be appreciated. By the way, I'll throw that little plug out there. Self-gratuitous, I know, but I apologize. So you're with the Giants through a really kind of a growing period for that team. That team was maturing into what became a Super Bowl champion. Did you see that greatness forming in that team as you spent those 3 years there? Absolutely.
Going into the second year, the defense really was amazing. And, you have to look at the defense. We was a good run team, good ball control team. And we always won those close games. And Bill Parcells did so much goodness of managing players. He could go in and get the best out of the players. He give guys nicknames, and he'll have a conversation with you that was really close. He certain things that he would do, and how he approached the game and sit down and talk to you, just make you want to be a part of that. And so that's what he did. He changed the mindset of the players. And I know after my rookie year, players that were getting injured and some of them was real negative, he would send them home. And so he got all that negativity out of the locker room, and he just built that team within getting the right guys like Pepper Johnson and Carl Banks from Michigan State, and Pepper Johnson from Ohio State. He brought in guys from winning college traditions as well, and he changed the whole mindset of everybody. And of course, everything was built around Lawrence Taylor. Man, he's just a phenomenal guy. And then Phil Simms was a commander in chief for us, and we just had great guys. Everybody had a certain role. We had 5 receivers, and I'll never forget that it was a big article. I still got it, and it say Parcells 5, some type of 5, commandos, receivers, or something like that. It was because everybody did something different. Everybody was good at something different. Bobby Johnson, Lionel Manuel, Phil McConkey, me, and so it was good. Everybody did their part, and then we had the good tight end with
Mark Bavaro, right?
Mark Bavaro and Zeke Moore, those guys, and that's what changed the tide for us with the Giants.
How tough did your skin have to be to play for Bill Parcells?
I think you just have to be really tough, because he's gonna test you. He's gonna say things to you. He goes, you have to say, man. But I think once you get to know him and get to know his personality, he's really down there type guy. Like when he came as coach here in Dallas, I called him and told him we were doing the golf tournament. I need some autograph stuff. I still got his autograph pictures and stuff, and he gave me some stuff to add to the. So he I think once this guy, he always gonna remember you and have a good conversation. But you can ask him for some important things. Like, for example, people don't know this, but he have done something for some players who had some short spells in their life, and like he'll pay guys mortgages. He done a lot of things behind the scenes that if God needs something, they'll call him and he would do it for him.
He would, and I probably, I don't know Bill Parcells the way you know him. I had an interaction with him because he lives up here, at least part of the year in Saratoga. Right. You're close to me, only 20 minutes away.
You love those horses.
Yeah, he does love the horses for sure. And we had one quick interaction at Cyril's many years ago, which wasn't. I thought I was polite, but he didn't think I was apparently. So, but I do hear good stories about Parcells, and I wasn't happy about the way he left the Patriots when he coached there, and so I probably have some hard feelings that are probably not warranted, but that's just who I am. I can't help myself. I'm glad to hear good stories about people that I have a different opinion about, so I can at least balance it a little bit.
Right.
I've heard some of those stories about Coach Parcells before, so I'm glad you reiterated on those. Guys, I see some questions coming in. I will get to them all, Michael and Rick. I just don't want to. We'll probably come back to some of those at the end to throw at it, Byron. So you had some injuries, and you decided what did the opportunities dry up in the NFL? That's why you went to the CFL. And what was that experience like playing it? It's good football. Chris Fgrave, who is a big fan of this show, lives up there, and he was talking about the Grey Cup this weekend, actually. What was your experiences like north of the border?
Well, I wanted to just go and play. And so my college quarterback, he was a senior, 5-year senior my freshman year. His name is Roddy Walt. He was in BC in Vancouver, and he said, "Man, we're gonna bring you up." He called him. He said, "Man, let's get up there." So that was my first introduction, because he knew me well, and so I started in Vancouver in BC, and then going into my second year, in September. That's when my mom got sick, and I told him that I had to come back and spend some time with my mom. They had given us so many days to live, and it was in 1988. And she was 64 years old, and I drove all the way from Vancouver down to Texas to be with my mom, and she stayed alive till I got there, and that was a comfort. So that's what really started my Canadian League stuff. So the next year, after she passed away, I signed and kind of just stayed up there on and off. And then in 1990, I signed with Detroit. I was a free agent. Because every time you sign up in Canada, you might sign a 1-year deal. That means you got a 1-year deal plus an option, so you have to step to 2 years. And they don't want to let you out of your contract. So right then, I was just floating around, kind of hot-headed, wasn't really focused. I was just trying to still play football and, wasn't seriously understanding the concept of finding the right team that I fit, that I fitted in. So that was one of the things that I hate. I didn't too much want to take people advice. I wanted to try to make my own path, but I kind of hurt my career. But I tell kids, whatever you do, just stay humble, and you got to really be around some good people to make that way you can hear some good advice as well.
Yeah, it's unfortunate youth is there's a cliche that youth is wasted on the young, right? Because we just don't know what we don't know. We think we know it all.
Right.
If you could go back and do it today, you'd do it a whole lot differently, right? If you knew what you knew now.
Well, the coach that was in Vancouver named Don Matthews, he ended up loving me, and so that's why I led the World League in 1990.
Yeah.
And because he was the coach, and so wherever he went, he said, "I'm taking you with me," and that was our deal. So that's why I played in BC. That's where he played. He was the head coach in Saskatchewan, and he was the head coach in Baltimore. I went to Baltimore, and we won the Grey Cup that year. It was the U.S. team, and that was in '94. But I tore my Achilles. But my point was, I learned to start playing for coaches versus what I feel like I want to do. So me and him had a great relationship. We had like a father-son relationship, and he called me BK, and that's how my name became BK. He said that Byron just too simple. He said, and that's kind of what it was. He made football fun for me because, he was like a dad, and then I was able to, be relaxed and play the game at a relaxed atmosphere.
Well, you mentioned that year in Orlando. That was, as a professional, I'm guessing it might have been your most enjoyable season because of the year you had. Plus, it was a different situation playing all over the globe, basically.
I loved it. And, I first of all, I won number 88. That's the year my mom died. So I dedicated the season. I had Kerwin Bell. He was a Heisman from Florida, Heisman guy, finisher, but I think he's second. But he played with Emmitt Smith, and so we had the best time. So I had a touchdown in every stadium almost in the World League. I scored in London, scored in Frankfurt, Germany, and scored 2 touchdowns in Barcelona, Spain. But the good thing about that, I had 11 touchdowns in 10 games. And it was so much fun. I was able to just enjoy it for that. And so I was the number one, I was the highest paid player in the World League that year because of the stats. And they pay you based off of your incentives. But it was fun. It was 10 games. And really, I got a chance to see the world. We traveled over there, and it was a different type of environment. And it was just a lot of fun. I think this is what they're trying to do in the NFL. They're trying to make it a global type deal to where players can get a chance to see the world, and people they're teaching flag football and teaching football all over in those places now. And it's just going to be exciting to see what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
I'm going to get into your in just a second. We're going to kind of switch gears to the your role now and how we got there. But since you're on that, how do the players and you're involved with the players closely with the NFL Players Association? Mm-hmm. How do the players feel about this international part of the game today? Do they enjoy that part of it, or is it just because of the rigors of the season to begin with? Is it just too tough for them?
I think it's challenging, but I think the players are beginning to enjoy it now because like this weekend the Vikings and the Jets are playing over there.
Yeah.
I think the players are now have really understand the concept because they want fans, they want people to get excited about it, and it's just phenomenal fans over there. So I think they're trying to figure out the best solution to make it work, and I think they're gonna have a global type situation soon. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I think the players now getting these guaranteed contracts. I don't think they're concerned with it no more. I think they can adjust. The only thing about just the time change and stuff like that, and some of the fields need to be kind of vamped to make sure that the footing and stuff like that and the fields are safe. And that's one of the things they're going to have to work on too, just to make sure that they got a real adequate code in place to make sure everything is comfortable for its playability on those fields.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that player safety stuff with you before we let you go too. So your playing career finishes up, I want to say 93-ish anyway, right?
94, yeah.
94? Okay. Were you ready to be done playing football, or was it kind of like no choice?
Well, I told my Achilles, and I just think I said, well, I think I need to. And then I had 2 little girls. I said, man, I got to focus on my family, and so I had my little thrill, I had my little time. It's time now to put things in place for my daughters, and it was time. You know, you have to have a window to where you got to decide that you have to move on. It's another chapter, and so I was able to do that, and I worked for General Motors for a lot of people don't know that I worked for General Motors for 6 months, and then I got in. These people started talking to me about the track and turf business, and I said, man, I love sports. So I got into the track and turf business. I either made a choice of General Motors or the track and turf business. So I chose the track and turf business and never looked back.
What were you doing? What was a job description that you were working at GM with the track and field?
Well, GM, they call it the 89, and so it brought a lot of us. It brought in 30 people. I was 30, and then about a week later, they came and got 15 off the floor because half of them tested positive for marijuana. And so I was one of the best one. They put me in all different departments of the General Motors. I was in the trim department and brake and booster department. I was good at everything. So I reorganized like the brake and booster. They couldn't keep a person over there because it was so complicated. So what I did was reorganize it, and they say, wow. So they would move me around. And it was really a fun, challenging deal. I really enjoyed working at General Motors for 6 months. But the track and field was just my cup of tea because I learned everything is to learn about putting in the running track, turf fields. We went to Paris, France, and started looking at the different FIPA fields, which is people approved fields, like for the best soccer players.
Yeah.
So I learned so much, and it really helped me. I did that for 25 years, and now that since I was at track, I got a putting green, and I put some turf in my backyard. So it's really have helped me to really appreciate sports construction because you learn so much. And then I was able to go to almost every school in the state of Texas and present information about the tracks and why would you want to put a track in, and the difference between a natural grass field and a turf field within a 10 to 12 year period. And so, you put the data in there and you talk to the superintendent, talk to the athletic directors. But let me tell you the key thing for us, what I did was, when I went to the school, I always decided who made the decision on putting in the field or the track. And that's who I sold to. I didn't waste no time with nobody else on that campus. And it's really good because sometimes at a convention, a coach would come up to me, a superintendent come up to me and told me, you was right, I should have listened to you. And that was good. It was good. It was good because it was a people type deal. And everybody needed a track.
Very diverse experiences for you. Lead you. How did you get involved with at first with the Players Association, and what attracted you to that?
Well, I started going to meetings, and I wanted to learn about the benefits, and I wanted to see what a 1-year player need to do versus a 10-year player. And so they asked me to come in, and when I come in, I take everything seriously. So I saw a guy named Isaiah Robinson play with the Rams.
Remember him?
And those guys, man, they embraced me and they said, you be a good leader. And so I learned. So in 2008, I just learned as much as I could about it. And then they said, man, you need to run for president. So I ran for president in 2010, and I've been in leadership ever since. So I just wanted to learn all about the benefits and what players are eligible for, And then every 5 to 10 years, we have a new grievances and collective bargaining agreement. And so I would just start diving into that.
What since you've been involved, what as a person, what are you most proud of your accomplishments since you've been working with the Players Association?
Well, I think coming back and guys are calling me and texting me every day and asking me what I need to go to for the hospital network. Like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm going down to Tulane to get a full body brain and body assessment every 5 years. They got that in place. If a player want to get his college degree or get his master's or get certified, they have money in place for that. You can get all that for free. They cover a lot of things. We had a collective bargaining agreement in 2010 that changed the whole perspective of everything. And then we had another agreement in 2020. And I think it's sad that we're doing it every 10 years. I wish we'd do it every 5 years. That way, because things change so much in that time frame. So you really want to educate the players, because players, they don't read through all the stuff. So they use me to say, well, what about this? What about that? So I have to tell them where to find it. But the key thing now with the way our society is, you got an app. And that app, you can go to your app and it have your ID number in there, just like your Social Security number.
Yeah.
And you pull up all your information, how many years you played, what you qualified for. And so that's kind of what I've really liked about the NFLPA. So
it's a good segue to get into one of the topics that I wanted to chat with you about. One of the real big reasons I wanted to get you on. There are a lot of reasons, because I respect a lot of the work that you've done and through the years, and all the people are doing at the NFL Players Association and other things. You've run all these football camps as well, which we haven't even touched on, but I'll make sure we will. Everybody, as you were saying, what you're saying is every player not available, does not have access to all of the same benefits as other players?
Every player got the same access to the benefit. It's their charge to get active, and that's why I tell guys, just come to the meeting, and I get you all your answers. If you have a question, most guys leave the NFL, they mad about getting cut, and I understand that. I was mad.
Yeah,
so I understand. I mean, everything you're going through, I probably went through, but some players need 3 games to be vested, and that's serious problems. But a lot of guys don't know what they're eligible for because they don't do their homework. I tell players, download the apps, do a tutorial, or get somebody, get your wife or the better half to help you, or either go to these meetings. We have these meetings every 2 or 3 months, and they have the national guys go around all these different locations, and they have meetups. And those meetups is where you go and you pour all your questions on the table, put all of them on the table, and they will get you some answers. I tell people right now, just let me know. The one thing that I have done since I've been involved is you call me, I'm calling you back, and I'm gonna get you your answer that you need.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of players are mad and they're upset about the way the NFL have done them. And I think, and because a lot of guys don't have their agent no more, they ain't got nobody that they can call and pick up phone and they'll do something, because most of these guys are heroes and icons, and then they don't think they think, but you have to do your work yourself as well. But and the main thing for me is just making sure these guys understand what they qualify for.
So do you think that's the case? We talked a little bit about 2 specific cases and 2 guys that I interviewed here.
I look both of them up.
Yeah, Byron Williams is probably a little bit more in the public eye because he's suing the NFL. I almost feel like he told me when I interviewed him, he was also was considering or what may have sued the NFL Players Association. And then there was Mike Bass. They both had pretty good NFL careers. Byron Williams was really good for a period of time before he had a serious neck injury. And Mike Bass played 14 years in the NFL. They both felt, they said directly that, and I'm pretty sure both of them told me the same thing about Gene Upshaw, that Gene Upshaw told them to their face that I don't represent you. Now, is that in any way, shape, or form true? And again, you don't know them, and I'm only repeating a third-hand story.
Right.
Or is it possible? And I know Gene Upshaw was gone from the Players Association by the time you were involved.
Right.
But is there a possibility that that is true and the Player Association has evolved over time, or they just haven't done their homework, like you said?
Well, the Player Association is a union deal, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that they have to realize, the collective bargaining agreement, go back and see when every time it comes up, they renegotiate the collective bargaining agreement. So every time that they renegotiate the collective bargaining agreement, benefits have increased. And what they need to do is go into the mindset of what improvement of what I qualify for. But now those guys qualify for so much. But see, one of the things that hit home is when you get over 65 years old, it's a whole different lifestyle. They cut off a lot of stuff. So what you need to do is just get involved, get engaged, and learn what all you need to do leading up before you get to 65. And see, the deal is most of the guys, like I said earlier, they leave the NFL. They mad. They mad and upset about it. They say the NFL done them wrong.
Yeah,
and it's a tough game. It's your body deteriorate quicker than most people. Back before 2020, the average lifespan of an NFL player was 52. Now it's around 56 to 59. So those things have really hindered and hurt us because a lot of guys are addicted to a lot of the stuff that really have dealt in the wrong hands in life. So I would just say those guys, I understand how they feel and what they thought they was getting into, but you yourself got to pick up your phone or call somebody and really know. And based on what's happening around the United States, is we got 37 chapters now. We just started a chapter in Minnesota. They didn't have a chapter. So what the NFLPA have done is done a better job of locating what players live and making sure they get information because these small huddles are the ones you got to get out and go into these small huddles. And that way you get some information. You'd be surprised what you can learn and what you're eligible for, because those guys right there that you're talking about are eligible for everything that's out there. They got what you call Plan 88, but you have to tap into that system before you get 65.
So do you think it sounds like the NFL Player Association, as I would hope it would, any organization would, has evolved over 30 years that we've talked about? I think Gene Upshaw was 93 might have been his last year as the president, if I'm not mistaken. He also was the executive director at one point too, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Do you think it's possible? And I know you can't speak for Gene Upshaw or maybe anybody then, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine. Do you think it's possible that he gave them that answer? That I don't represent you? I mean, it sounds pretty harsh and something.
I think he probably said that. I can see him saying that statement, and I understand what he meant by that. Maybe he didn't explain himself right by saying that, meaning that he do work for the players. He probably work for the players' betterment and for their benefits. Yeah. He should have said that, because I think now that's what we say. What are your benefits? And then that's why you go on that app and your name pop up there and everything populate on your ID, and then you can see exactly what you qualify for. And I understand a lot of people didn't like him because of the way he was very, very direct. Yeah. And so I can understand that. But now things have changed. You have to continue to graze that grass and just find out for yourself. And that's the point. Some of the stuff is hidden in these documentations of how things change. And because for example, every player that's vested got a $50,000 health care reimbursement account, meaning that if you go to the doctor and you have to pay $500 out of your pocket, you're eligible. They'll write you your check back because you got $50,000 sitting in an account that you can get reimbursed on your services.
Yeah, Rick has a good point too that I should have alluded to. One of the things they felt too, it's a little bit outside of the Players Association purview, but that the players today do not appreciate or really even understand the sacrifices that some of these guys made in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even your time for where they are today. I mean, do you get that sense from the players?
Well, I think they don't really know the value, and they don't know how much depth it is. But what the NFL players are trying to do, when every team that's in the NFL, we got reps. Like for me, I'm the president So when they go and visit the teams in during the season, they always ask the president to come in and say introduce, and so they can understand that one day you're gonna be retired, and so we got the NFL retirement side. So we're trying to connect the dots and trying to connect them to let them know that we are trying to service current players as well as we got a pocket of retired players, and this is what they do.
It kind of speaks to Michael's comment here about, is there help and guidance for the players' development after football? And it would seem that you're saying, yes, there is.
Well, let me share this with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Every player that's on these teams doing training camp, they come in and they talk about everything I'm telling you. Mostly it's a benefit package. And then after you retire, they have an exit portal for you to go through. And they have all that available for the players. But they're so upset, they don't want to read no exit.
Yeah.
They're trying to get signed to another team. So they do have things in place to keep them engaged, to keep them informed, and that they can take advantage of. And, after every player leave the NFL, your insurance stay intact for 5 years. So after 5 years, you got to get your own insurance. So it's little stuff like that they need to know. Yeah.
It sounds like, they've got to take some accountability and responsibility for their own future as well as you guys helping them out, which only makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there things, again, we've obviously evolved and there's more programs than there's ever been for current players, former players, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Are there further things that you'd like to see implemented that have not quite come to fruition yet, as far whether it's for past players or current group of players?
Yeah, I think we can do better. Well, we got a relationship with the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, the Tulane Institute. We got Harvard study about the brain and body. We got dental programs. Now you got a dental account for former players. You got an eye account. We do a lot of sleep programs for sleep problems. We got a lot of that in place, and all that is free to the players. And so I just think it just depends on how many years of services that you have, depending on what you qualify for, what's under the collective bargaining agreement. But each and every year, things have been improved. Even the cost of living with the pension have gone up. So there's a lot of things I think that the players need to just go to the local chapter, either call up there to the national headquarters office, and be informed of what those things are. But it's got so much better.
Cool. And as far as today's game, obviously the game's changed a lot. There's been a lot of rule changes. Where does the Players Association fall in these rules changes? The ones, and again, the NFL makes a lot of rules changes in the name of safety, and
right.
whether that some of that is real safety or they're looking to do it for other reasons, I don't know. I know that safety is important to the Players Association and watching out for the players. Right. Are you guys consulted on all of these rule changes, and do you have any real say in whether they come about or do not come about?
Yeah, I know the NFLPA have a safety commission and safety group that counselors that go to every field, get inspected before the games and after the game.
Yeah.
And then we had, like, for example, this is an example. We had about 7 fields that was considered unsafe, and we had to submit information to those owners and the stadium managers to change out the fields because of the injuries. They keep the data on knee injuries and lower extremities injuries and things like that. So all this stuff is put into a database to where every year around the clock at these conventions, all this stuff is pulled out and talked about for the safety and the health of for the players. So they have improved a lot, and it's got so much better. And so you have to make sure that players don't see that part. But these fields are inspected before every game, before game time. And so there's a lot of protocols in place for that.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about the fields for sure the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And as far as the game itself, a lot of it feels like a lot of the violence. It's a violent game, right? People know it's a violent game. People tune into it because it's a violent game. Some of the players, quite frankly, are playing it because I think they enjoy that part of the game and they know what they're getting into. I get it. You can't legislate all the violence out of this game and it still be the same game, obviously. And I understand defenseless players. Some of those rules are good. But when you diametrically change the way the game's played, the kickoff rules, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, back when you played, there were some really dynamic kick returners, and it was an exciting part of the game. And right now, it's so messed up. In the name of safety, that they've done all these things. I mean, do you think that stuff is warranted, or should we? Is there a different way to approach this?
I think they need to decide on it, because like Dexter Hector, he wouldn't have made the Hall of Fame if we wanted.
Like Hughes Johnson, a ton of guys, right?
So yeah, you're absolutely right. I just think that part of the game is hard to accept for players. I think they want to do it the old-fashioned way, but they trying to change the rules and guidelines for safety. But I just think that part need to be considered a little bit more in depth, of where not to change it like that and then and players accept it. I think you just take a study and see what would be best served, because the excitement of the game is still just go down there and make your big hits and so forth. So I think players love that.
Yeah, and do you feel like you played the game? I mean, you knew what the risks were, but again, I guess there's also the thing, do you really know? You're a young player, you're excited, you're this. I mean, do you really know the danger you might be putting yourself into playing this sport? I mean, do you think you knew at that time what could happen to you at any given time? You think about
I think I knew in the back of my mind, but I also know that you got to lift weights, you got to get your body prepared.
Yeah.
It's certain things you have to do to make sure that you could be at the ultimate of your performance. So I think too that some of these guys are not in shape. They don't run as much as we ran, and so there's a different dynamic of how much physical you could be or become. You have to be real physical to play football. You really do.
Well, actually, it takes me down another road with the Players Association. So being in shape, right, and being in game shape, the way that training camps have become, even after training camps, there's no hitting except when the games, basically. And training camps, you can only do so much. And it doesn't seem guys are in shape and ready to be hit on a consistent basis. And part of that's got to come down on the Players Association, I would think, because they're negotiating these agreements they're putting these stipulations into place.
Yeah, I think the Players Association don't really dive into that part of it, because what we tried to do is look at the safety part of it and how many injuries done occurred during training camp, how many concussions and stuff like that, the length of time that you have to sit out for a concussion. So I think the Players Association have done a great job putting that in perspective. But, the teams and the owners want to win games, and they want to put butts in seats and things like that. They want to sell jerseys. So you got a whole lot of other things that's in the equation that really dictate what we can do and what we can't do. So, but we all made good headways for some of the things that have happened. But I just think too, training camp was really, really hard during my day. After 3 days of being in training camp, you can't hardly get out of bed. So it's completely different. It's completely different. So,
well, some of it's probably good and some of it's probably bad. I have to believe, again, I'm watching from the outside. You were there. I got to believe the less difficult training camps lead to some of the injuries that we see, especially early in the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why you got to emphasize to your players. You got to be in shape. You got to be ready. You got to be ready. Because it's so important. But another thing that changed the perspective too, Keith, is that we had a 52-man roster. When I first got to the NFL, it was 48-man roster. But it's 52-man roster. But now they keep another 15 guys on the practice roster. So you go into training camp with 90 players, and then you can have about 72 if you talk about injury reserve that's that's constantly inside your team. That's on part of the team. So it's a whole different concept of the game.
One last thing before I get to, I just want to. There's a few questions to get to from the viewers I want to get to before we leave. But one last thing for you and the Players Association and the NFL. We've had a few players get in trouble for gambling in the last few years. not betting on their teams, or maybe not even football. So I don't think it's not like a Pete Rose situation necessarily.
Right.
Rest in peace, Pete. That was bad news this month, but it brings this to mind for me. The NFL's and all of sports getting into bed, basically. I mean, with gambling sites like DraftKings and whoever else.
Right.
Again, I understand they're not saying it's okay to go bet on the sport you play or break any of the rules we may have into place, but I can understand where players feel it's a little hypocritical that you get into bed with gambling sites and then tell us we can't even go play whatever other NCAA tournament bets, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
What's a players' association thoughts do you feel, or your own as well, about how the NFL and other sports have gotten into bed with these gambling sites?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes with the owners and making the money and getting your team to be a $9 billion operation. But yeah. I just think that it don't go hand in hand with trying to have the integrity of the game for us. And I think here in Texas you can't bet on because they don't have it within the state. But those places that do have it, I think it can be a distraction. I think you're gonna always have somebody trying to cross the line and deal with trying to make money on the side and things like that. And some of these players have friends that indulge in it for them or something. And that's another thing. And if you get caught, you got to get penalized for it. But I just think they need to come up with something consistent that everybody can abide by.
And I'm not saying, by the way, that gambling's a bad thing. And if you do it intelligently and not, bet within your means, and because I like to make a few wagers myself, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm also not involved in the outcome of football games or in a position to give out information either, which is something we have to consider as well. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. A couple quick things. I think we got to some of these, but let me go through some of these quick, and then we'll clean up. Let's see.
Man, that hour show go by fast.
It does. That's why I left it. Jeez, sometimes I'm going an hour and a half just because I can't get to the stuff I want to get to, but I'm glad we were able to get to everything. Rick, I know Rick from your days doing the show.
Up, Rick? Yeah.
Jim wanted to say hi, and Linda McGrath saying hi, and they miss you on the network.
Hey, Linda.
2 questions for Byron from Michael Gott. Michael Gott over in the UK, by the way.
Okay.
He had another question about that. He said, a fascinating career for you. Who was the best player you played with? Which is normally a question I ask, but I didn't myself. And what team did you enjoy playing with the most?
Well, I just have to say, Lawrence Taylor was far the best player that I ever played with. He's just phenomenal. Everything that he did was great. I think being with the Giants, I learned so much. Having Belichick and having some of those great coaches. I think the coaches made everything great for us, and just learning the concept of what a team football should be about. And playing for a guy like Bill Parcells, you just got to embrace that.
Rick's going to have this question somewhere probably. Who is the craziest guy you ever played with?
Man, the craziest guy would probably be Lawrence Taylor too, because he does some things off the football field that was wild. And it's just, I just say I play with a lot of phenomenal talent. The good thing about playing on that level, you see some special skill sets of people that you have to say wow. You leave that with a wow factor, and just knowing how guys can pinpoint that football. Some of the quarterbacks, Mark Navarro, he'll fighter, just an awesome individual, great player. Just hearing these guys' stories from where they grew up and how they end up is also phenomenal as well.
Just a couple more here. If while we're doing this, we lose the national streaming sports audience, I want to thank you for watching today. We'll be going just a few minutes, but sometimes we'll get knocked off by a show coming on at 10. If we do, I want to thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you Sunday morning with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Byron, Rick is talking about, can you hook me up with Alfred Anderson? I love Vikings players. I've had a lot of Vikings players on my interviews only because they're very receptive, and they reach out and they want to join. Chuck Foreman's been on, Ed White. I'm sure some others. So
I set you over there for now. So he's my best friend. We go to church together. We talk almost every day.
Love
Also,
to have
I just became real close with Ben Williams. He running the chapter in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Ricky Young was there. I got a chance to meet Ricky Young. So it's good that these guys are being involved with the Players Association and these chapters.
I tell you, the Viking players have been some of the fun interviews I've done. Chuck Foreman was very awesome because I got the movie A Few Good Men. I'm sure everybody knows. It's a great movie. The Jack Nicholson scene. And Rick loves this because he was a huge Chuck Foreman fan. We got to talk about the Hall of Fame. And he said, I don't understand the criteria to get in and blah, blah, blah. I go, do you think you belong in the Hall of Fame, Chuck? He goes, you're goddamn right. I think I belong in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Some of these players forget they own talk. You can't say certain words, but that's their personality.
I had a blast. That was my Jack Nicholson, Chuck Foreman moment. Rick is talking about how it's great you keep in touch with your old teammates and coaches. He last played 50 years ago and still see and talk with a lot of our old teammates. And again, my best friends are the friends I've had for, as Rick says, for 50 or 55 years now. So it's great to stay in touch with a lot of them. I'm sure your job helps that too, working for the Players Association. So
I get to talk to a lot of guys. I mean, just too tall. I mean, just tons of guys called.
You're making my list longer here, Byron. Guys, you got to get me hooked up with here. So Michael got talking about, I'm not sure what that first, what is that? OC, is that OC?
OC, the guy that played,
Is that the Giant? Is he talking about the Giant?
Talking about the Giant, yeah. He's promoting, he's kind of like an ambassador for the NFL development over there in Europe. Yeah.
Okay. I would have mispronounced his name anyway, Michael, so that's fine.
He is a great guy. Yeah, most of the Giants are great guys.
Yeah. No bias there. By the way, I didn't mention, I think you put that Michael Strahan jersey behind you today just to torment me for an hour.
This is my Hall of Fame room. So I got a lot of Hall of Famers in here. And I switched sides. And if you go this side, you'll see Lawrence Taylor stuff over there.
That one wouldn't have hurt me as much as the Michael Strahan one. He's responsible for two of the worst Sundays of my life. But
I want you to see that today.
I appreciate that. What else we got here? We talked about that. Hold on. We did that too. Here we go. Again, we talked about the special teamers, Steve Tasker.
Billy White.
Billy White shoes. Yeah. Billy.
I have Billy White shoes number. He lives in Atlanta. I talk to him from time to time. And
another one on the list.
It is so much fun to talk to some of these people that you're talking about.
I got him.
Man, of course, he was phenomenal. He was the guy who brought in the little receivers inside, the slot receiver nobody could keep up with. And he reminded me of Phil McConkey. But yeah, Steve was a great guy.
Interesting. Danny Fuller out in California. Danny was right there in the Mac and Jack show this morning at like 5 a.m. Good job, Danny. He wants to know, back in the day, your 253rd pick.
Right.
What point that you had a thought you'd be picked? Was there some doubt when it went on so far? And what was the call like?
We had 12 more rounds. I was gonna hang in there at 12 rounds, but when I got the call from Green Bay. Bart Starr called me and had to say, welcome, you are a Packer. Man, I was like happy. I was just saying, well, I don't care where I'm going to. And the good thing about going then was, you had James Lawson and John Jefferson. They had two of the best receivers. And I wanted to learn. So I had to go up there and I wanted to just be a fly on the wall to make sure I learned everything I can learn about being a professional and taking it to the next level.
Good stuff. A couple more here. Is there anything more that can be done, is going to be done to help improve the concussion injuries? We know they're wearing now the I don't know what they call the bubble over their helmet, but
some type of cap. I forgot it's a cap that they put.
Yeah.
On. But I mean, every day I think technology is changing. They have a Teflon, which meaning that when you hit and collide, instead of the pain or the sound go inside. It means it bounce back. You hit the helmet and bounce back out. So they're trying to find ways to protect the brains, and they got a lot of things that's coming out real soon. with the equipment that they wear, and that's why these guys look like they're wearing shorts out there instead of wearing football pads. So the shoulder pads are condensed down, smaller. So the technology and the protection gear is supposed to be becoming more safer.
Good stuff. Danny mentions a smile on my face as you mentioned Bill Belichick. We know what that's about. Thank you, Danny, for pointing that out.
I saw Bill Belichick at the Super Bowl. He said, "Hey, what's up, B?" I said, "What's up, Bill?" So, hey, them locker rooms conversation with those guys will always be remembered. So yeah, Bill Belichick, one of my favorites.
Is Bill Belichick going to coach the Giants next year?
He's the Giants of Dallas, I think.
Yeah, I think I would say that's pretty. I'm not rooting for either one of those teams, by the way, but sorry, Bill. Bart Starr, wow, priceless. Best quarterback, a Packer quarterback of all time. Great quarterback. Obviously, he gets lost a little in the conversation today because of recency bias with Favre and Jesus, good grief. How can I not remember? No, not Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, yeah.
But Bart Starr is a great quarterback. He didn't become a great coach necessarily, but that's not all on him, I don't think. But certainly a great guy from what you had mentioned.
Oh yeah, he came and told me exactly what he was going to do for me, and he just I wish back then they had practice roster. They had a way to put you on injury reserve, but. It just, things happen for the best. That's how you look at it.
Man, Rick says, miss you and Jim. Hope you come back. Hope you come back on. I guess that's a statement. Come back on.
We're working on a lot of stuff. So
just
be on alert mode. We had to take a break, and sometimes you have to take a break and then revamp. And I talk to Jim every day. He's doing great.
I reached out to him a couple times, and he says, hang in there. I'll be back. I got to get him on here, too, I think, on a Friday morning just to chat with him. Jim's a great guy, too. We used to have a lot of fun with him on Sunday mornings. And, as I did with you on Fridays when we'd cross paths. So, Byron, I appreciate you coming on today, and we had a lot of fun. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up here, but stick with me for 1 second. Guys, I appreciate you and your input as always. All the groups that will let me share this later, I appreciate that. And we'll see you on Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness, and hang in there till then. We'll see you in the big football show for a few minutes before that as well. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talks one-on-one with Keith Engle. But thanks to Byron Williams. We'll see you next week. I think we'll have June Jones, I hope. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.